We'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to try to be on time. The first item on our work session agenda is the manners at Creekside Village. And Greg, are you going to give us an update with your team on? Okay. If you want to go to that microphone, if you hit the button to where it's green, is it on? Oh, there you go. You're on. Good idea. Okay, good idea. Excellent idea. And the person who does the minutes, they are not in the room, so it's helpful if people give their name and address.
Certainly, certainly. Are we all set?
We are ready.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg Windingland. I'm with Lombardo Homes. Address is 13001 23 Mile Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48315. With me tonight also is David Hensel, one of our project managers on our land development team, and Will Freeman, who is our construction manager for all of our Ypsilanti Township communities. So they're with me here tonight as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be before you tonight. We appreciate it. We've worked very hard with the township's attorney and the township staff. We think we have everything set, and we want to give you just a brief presentation tonight. So an agenda which is more to keep me on track so I don't go wandering around in that. I'd like to do a little refresher on who Lombardo is. It's been a while since we've been before you guys, and there may be some new township board members, so we'd like to do a little bit of who Lombardo Homes is. We'd like to talk about manners at Creekside Village, and I'd like to do this in about 10 minutes or less, so we'll see how we do with time. Maybe you knew and maybe you didn't, but Lombardo Homes is a second-generation builder. We're the second largest builder in Michigan behind Pulte Homes, and we are currently second generation. You guys have met Anthony. He also has 3 other adult siblings that work in the company full-time, and they're all very terrific people to work with. We have a presence in 7 of the 9 counties in southeast Michigan. We've developed over 15,000 single-family lots. We have 2,400 market rate apartments. We do not do subsidized housing in our apartments. They're all market rate apartments, and we are currently structured on a company basis to develop around 400 lots per year and build about 400 homes per year. In 2011, we opened a division in St. Louis, Missouri, and we also opened a custom home division here in Michigan, Cranbrook Custom Homes. As far as what we believe in our corporate vision, our vision is to positively impact the lives we touch, and we try to do that in every way we possibly can. You'll see there's a mug shot there right in the center that looks like somebody in the audience tonight. Will Freeman was recently voted to be our Employee of the Year for 2016, and we couldn't have had a better representative of Lombardo Homes for that. We always have pre-submittal meetings with our residents. When we go to submit for a new site plan or anything, we will invite the area residents to a meeting at a local library or some other facility where we can talk to them and introduce ourselves and let them know kind of who we are and what our plans are. We oftentimes get very good feedback from them at those meetings. The Michigan War Dog Memorial was a cemetery in Lyon Township that was created to bury service dogs that came home from World War II that were too violent to fit in with society, so they had to put them down. That's the picture kind of in the center at the bottom. That's at 11 Mile and Milford Road. When we purchased the property that surrounds that, we came to realize that we also purchased the cemetery because nobody had ever done the land division. So we did the land division, and we've helped the memorial people with some other contributions in that. In the right side of the screen, St. Baldrick's is a child's cancer research fundraising organization, and we've participated in that in the Macomb County area for several years now. David Hamilton, who is with our Cranbrook team, has for a couple of years been the top participant for raising funds for that group. I think I heard he was about 14th in the nation as well for individuals. And then the team that we put forward has been the top fundraiser for that group as well for several years. And then in the lower left corner is our land development team at Halloween. Kind of interesting that we're here. Rosie the Riveter there, I know it's from a couple years ago. She's in the picture. So kind of applicable for this area.
Yes, it is.
Our regional presence, the circle indicates Ypsilanti Township, and then the yellow dots indicate in this area where we either have vacant land that we're going through site planning for, or we have active communities. And you can see there's several in Ypsilanti as well as the surrounding areas. And then within Ypsilanti Township itself, we have Creekside Village East that we've completed. We have Creekside Village South that we have recently completed. Of course, tonight we're talking about Manors at Creekside Village. Tremont Park we did not develop. We just purchased home sites. To the east of that, the Bunton Road, that we have under purchase agreement, and we're in the due diligence process for that. Creekside Village North, we're putting together a site plan for that. We'll probably make that submittal sometime over the course of the summer. We'll be making a formal submittal to the township for that. Majestic Lakes, the Lakewood Estates component, we are actively building in there. And then the village at Majestic Lakes, we are currently under purchase agreement to purchase that land and also develop that. There's some rehabilitation work to do on there. The status of improvements for Manors at Creekside Village, the items that are completed, I won't rattle off every single one of them, but as you can see, almost everything is fully completed out there, including dedication of the public utilities, the public roads, the drain improvements, and so on. We have the developer sidewalk installed. This site is fully vegetated. The nearly completed items, the landscaping, we've posted a letter of credit for that. The street trees, we have a cash deposit on file with the township for that, and then the development agreement is what we're talking about tonight. Manors at Creekside Village, we're offering 2 plans. We did agree, and the development agreement will reflect it, that we will only do ranch homes. We have 2 models, the Franklin and the Brook, and that's what we're currently building in South, and both of those are very popular plans, and we're very successful with them. Some sales updates for you. Manors at Creekside Village, so far, we have 11 sold homes. The average sales price so far is a little over $225,000. So far, we have a maximum sales price there of almost $254,000, which is very good. We have 4 customer reservations, so Will has been very eager to get going there. Creekside Village South, as I mentioned earlier, we're sold out there. The first 5 homes that we sold averaged just over $209,000. The last 5 were almost $225,000, and we had a maximum sales price there of $251,000. So again, that was a very successful, and yes, you can say I told you so. That was a very successful community for us. Majestic Lakes, so far we have 15 sales, and the sales prices are there again. Very, very successful for us.
There's not a lot of audience members, but this development is a ranch style, you know, for empty nesters, and
yes,
it was built as kind of like a Dell community. That's how Pulte originally started, you know.
Yes, Pulte originally developed it as a ranch community, and they didn't label it as a Del Webb community, but it was intended to be empty nesters, active seniors,
Right. Yeah.
folks without children, things like that, and that's why the ranch construction.
And the reason Greg made a joke kind of is when they split the 2 developments up from the Manors and Creekside Village South, they did not want to continue with the ranch-style development, and we had several meetings with it, like, the owner's name is Anthony Lombardo, and I go, Anthony, as I always called him that, but I said, people want these. We know that people want these. And sure enough, the market turned, and they decided it was successful.
Worked out great for everybody.
Right.
It worked out great for everybody.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think there's going to be even more, like throughout the township, need for this kind of housing.
Yeah, very successful.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, people, you sell your home that is 2-story in order to move into a ranch and be close to your grandkids. I mean, we hear the stories all the
Yep.
time.
Yep. So.
It's good.
Yeah.
It was funny, though.
Yeah. Some pictures up there from last fall. Again, just demonstrating the extent of landscaping that's already been installed. The colors out there in the fall were beautiful. And then it's an exciting time for us to be in the community. Mike had been sharing with me some of the information on the mobility center, and that's fantastic. And then I don't know how I did in 10 minutes or not, but hopefully it was fairly close. So, okay. If there's any questions that I could answer, I would be glad to do so.
Does anyone have any questions? I know in the development agreement, like the other ones we have done, but I was going to ask about being bee friendly, BEE friendly, with your herbicides, pesticides, the things that you grow.
Yes.
So that, there's a big issue with collapse of the bees. And Ypsilanti Township is the first community in the state of Michigan to receive that designation. So we're trying to really promote, we have a no phosphorus fertilizer ordinance.
Yes.
Because most grass already has enough phosphorus, but when they treat it, people like to add it in, which causes issues with our waterways and going down our storm drain. So I just want to mention that to you. I know it's not in the development agreement, but I just wanted to mention that to you, that that's important.
Okay.
Be aware of it, and BEE aware. It's a cute way of doing it.
Yeah.
Phosphorus is, but
Yeah,
the bee friendly.
I believe it's in the master deed as well.
Yeah.
As far as the bee-friendly portion of it, I think possibly based on a couple of the last-minute changes on the development agreement, we'll probably have to do a master deed amendment so that they're in sync.
Well, and I wanted to tell you as a successful developer and a development team that, people are really trying to do, some countries have completely banned certain chemicals from being treated,
Okay. We
So-
would certainly be willing to incorporate that if we can.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Sure.
But yeah, everyone, your residents are very happy with the development, and we look forward to your expansion.
So do we. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, I just want to give a quick kudos to Will, the employee of the year over there. Me and my wife, we moved in Tremont Park back in May of last year, and a great experience, and you were great to work with, so we're satisfied. The whole neighborhood loves the development, so you guys are doing great.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Winters, do you have anything to add?
Actually, just probably I should maybe take a moment and just say thank Mike and his staff and Dick and Ben Carlisle for, I think at the end of last year when we had change in the planning department, we sat down with Greg and we tried to figure out a way to restart our relationship. And I think probably with a lot of credit going to Greg and his team in Lombardo, when a lot of the developers were fleeing the township back in 2007, 2008, Greg and his team in Lombardo, obviously, they were the ones that were coming into the township seeing that there was going to be a great opportunity. And while we've had a few little rough spots along the way trying to figure out the product and the language and development agreements and getting a restart, I do think right now with that meeting that we had back in the end of last year that kind of at least allowed all of us to kind of reframe and restart the dialogue. And I think right now that I think Lombardo Homes wants to be in the township. I think they want to build in the township. And I think that we're going to find that they're proceeding in good faith in regards to what they say they're going to do. And we have some checks and balances that are set forth in the development agreement that will ensure that regardless as to who's sitting here, that they will be lived up to, because this development goes back to 1998. I know my hair was a lot darker back then than it is today, but it does go back a ways. And so, again, when others decided to leave the township, I do commend Lombardo for recognizing the value the township was going to have in their product. And we think right now that, as Supervisor Stummel pointed out, we kind of know the community pretty well. They do in terms of what is going to sell, and I think we're going to have a win-win situation. But in terms of all the bells and the whistles in the development agreement, they are going to, they are there. There may be some additional language to the master deed. And just to maybe take one example in regards to this issue about the sidewalks, there was a time back in the probably 15 years ago or more, I think Supervisor Stumble and Rowe and McCann Rowe and Larry can remember, we had a number of lawsuits that were going on at the time over sidewalks that had not been properly maintained. And at that time, we had to come up with a solution to make sure that future subdivisions, that the repairs would be borne by that subdivision, because we could not replace all the sidewalks in this township. We were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair the sidewalks. And so the agreement that you'll see here right now, again, emphasizes that once the sidewalks have been installed and the homeowners association comes into existence, then that responsibility for replacement and repair of the sidewalks is the responsibility of the association. And in the event those sidewalks are not repaired or maintained in accordance with the township's requirements, the township has a mechanism in place that allows, if necessary, for the township to actually enforce that obligation and then have that cost assessed on those units. That does not exist in some of our other subdivisions, and while the township has no problem in stepping up and doing what has to be done to have safe pedestrian pathways and sidewalks, the expense, as I know the supervisor can attest to, was going into the millions of dollars over a period of years in regards to sidewalks, not to mention the safety component and some of the lawsuits that were associated with that. This is just one example of how, as we start to restart development, we have to continue to look back at what we know has worked in the past and to make sure that as we get new challenges, and then this one has the security cameras and some of the other features that we've become accustomed to in trying to make sure that the neighborhoods are going to have a safe neighborhood, and to, again, to work hand in glove with the Sheriff's Department. But again, I'd like to express my appreciation to Lombardo, especially to Ben and Dick Carlisle and Mike and his team for all the labor they put into this, as well as ensuring that we have, with the treasurer, the financial securities to ensure that if something went wrong, there's a security or escrow that's going to make good on these obligations for the infrastructure, and as well as for the street trees and things of that nature. So again, it's an arm's length transaction, but it's also one in which there's been, I believe, a good faith and respect shown on both sides, which just makes for a good contractual relationship.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
You're welcome. Would you like us to stay around for the 7 o'clock in case there's any discussion or anything?
I don't think it's necessary. Do you, Doug?
The press probably won't mind if you're not here.
Since they're not here?
Yeah.
All right. Sincerely, thank you all very much. We really do appreciate it.
And we really thank you for your contributions to the community and supporting the young people.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda. We're going to actually review the agenda, but I know Judge Pope and Magistrate Nelson are here, so would it be okay if we went down to number 5 and just identify with him? And Jeff. So we have the request of Jeff Allen to retain the architectural professional services with Hobbs & Black to design court security systems for 14B District Court.
Hi, Madam Chair. The memo's from me, but if Mark wants to make a comment on it as well. As you know, we met with 3 full-time officials a while ago, maybe last week or a little bit before that, discussing trying to get an architect to come up with some way to set up a security screening for this court, similar to other courts. So we had received quotes on from 3 companies, architectural firms, for coming in through the Civic Center. But after we met, we thought maybe there was a better way, and we went through a lot of ways. But we'd like to hire Hobbs & Black to kind of look at it and say, what's the best way to make it work, to set up.
And maybe Mark can give some history on why, and Charlie about what type of security, just for the court.
Sure. So
Mark Nelson.
Good evening, Mark Nelson, I'm magistrate of the 14B District Court. As Jeff was saying, this process has gone back. We started meeting initially with the three elected officials a year or 2 years ago now, I think was our first meetings. We've started discussing this. But what we're looking for, the end product we're looking for is court security. So we have screening at the doors when people enter the courts to verify people aren't bringing weapons or other contraband into the court, which would include recording devices, telephones, and then on up there to firearms, knives, things like that can be used as weapons for public safety is a primary concern in that. So as we're aware, there's a number of ways to get in and out of our building, and we're just looking at hiring Hobbs & Black after talking to three architecture firms all together, trying to figure out what the best option is and the best use of our existing space is, how we can do that most economically, and how we can do it for both flow of people coming in and out of the building and for the security setup for the security professionals that would be utilizing the screening stations. So that's kind of where we are right now, is just a sort of initial jumping off point to actually get that going moving forward, getting architectural services in here to give us the best way to pull this off for, like I said, for the flow of traffic through the courts in our buildings, and the most economical and least impactful way to do it as far as changes to the building go.
Then you'll bring the report back.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, this is just a first step. We would then come back with a comprehensive plan that would include their recommendations for how to do it, where the screening should be, what changes need to be made to the building to achieve it, and then, of course, the costs associated with the equipment for the screening, the personnel for the screening, a big, much bigger picture and presentation at that point in time once we have this initial step done.
Any other questions from the members until we come in? No? I know the court administrator's office, somehow they recommended this with a safety audit, or?
Yeah, we've done, had a number of, the Supreme Court scale, Supreme Court Administrative Office and the Supreme Court have a security expert that they farm out to the local courts and have come down and do audits for us. We had that audit done 3 or 4 years ago now. We executed a number of the initial recommendations, putting additional doorways in, if we put peepholes in doors so people would see through before they're going out, put cameras in, things like that were sort of the lower hanging fruit, but this sort of will be the end of that recommendation. And it's actually the second audit we've had for security in the building. We had one done when Judge Pope had my job. That was done in the 90s sometime, I believe, late 90s. Yeah. And their conclusions were the same, that screening needed to be done at the front of the building. So we're just kind of trying to follow through and ultimately get that done on those types of recommendations.
Jeff, do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't.
And so the funding for this is going to come from the fund balance in the court budget.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we're going to go back to the agenda, the consent agenda, the minutes and statements and checks. Any comments, questions? I submitted some changes earlier, and they're going to be implemented. Attorney's report?
I think probably with all the letters that have been going over the last few weeks, everybody's probably pretty current and up to date. So there's nothing new to add beyond what I've been sending over. So
That's good. Okay.
Good job. You're doing a good job. I might think of something between now and the regular meeting.
Budget amendment number 5.
Sorry. I know when I listened to the tape today, I thought, oh my gosh, I never turned it on. $559,307, and that's for $355,010 for Tyler Dam, $184,297, which is for the pass, which is on the agenda tonight, and for repairing one of the old mowers for the golf course to use the bat wing. Then to increase the bike, sidewalk, recreation bonds, and roads and general fund budget, it's a $126,799, and that's for, which is also on the agenda for the roof at the community center, and increasing environmental cleanup by $321,794. That's actually just a transfer from that fund over to the general fund, as I mentioned earlier, for the Tyler Dam project. And the $20,000 in the next line item is for the courts, what we just talked about with Mark Nelson about the security hire in the company, Hobbs and Black, to do the design work. And then finally, to increase the golf course by $293,632. That's for the golf paths, the more repair, and for the vacuum, which are all on the agenda also.
Other question? Do you want to? So basically, we're going to close out the one fund and transfer it. We had a meeting today on the Tyler Pond project, and it was $1.4 million.
Estimate.
The township portion, and it was $1.4 million. So they haven't actually bid it out yet, and we're really hoping it's less than that. But the entire estimate was $2 million. So very appreciative of the negotiations with ACM for $1 million to help with that expenditure and help pay the residential portion of the assessment. It hasn't been bid out, it hasn't been awarded yet, so those are the rough numbers. We're transferring the funds out of here into the Tyler Road project. We'll need every dime we can get. Did you have a comment?
We should be getting the remaining balance of the $300,000 pretty soon. You may have seen some of the emails that went back from Scott Westover and Jeff Castro just confirming that they're getting 7 or 8 feet. They've lowered the Tyler Pond. So I've asked the attorneys for
It went up 2 feet because of the rain. I was dying.
2 feet, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, 5 feet.
Right. Give us our check.
It lowered 7 feet, and they raised it 2 more feet. So I guess we have a net gain of net of 5 so far. But I'm trying to get the money, but okay, I'll leave that alone for the time being. But we are getting closer, I think, to getting the $300,000. And I'm not really sure how far it has to go for ACM's purposes, but I think we're getting close.
It is. It's
All right, I'll stop right there.
it doesn't rain. We've already discussed a plan development agreement for the manors. It's the first agreement for the new trustees. I'm not sure if there's any questions or.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I did have a question in regards to the development itself. I know, are they actually putting in with the new part of the development, are they putting in the lights, or is that something that's going to be required at a later date?
Yeah, the infrastructures are already in. So when Pulte owned the development, it was one development, and he had put in all the roads and lights and the infrastructure. So usually it's required to do that, but in this instance, it's already there.
All right, thank you.
And then they're going to do the cameras that was discussed, so that'll be helpful. We just heard a really good, Mike's not here, use of the cameras that were an amazing tool to help. It was on McCartney. There was 2 vehicles going like this, and they were kind of shooting at each other, and they actually caught the image of the person in the mirror and was able to help track that person down based on that. I mean, it was correct, Mike. I mean, it was very helpful. The cameras for the one shooting, when the 2 cars were shooting at each other on McCartney, it caught it, yeah. So they're helpful in solving crimes for sure.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. That's the camera on McCartney Estate? Yes. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the one. All right, the next item is a request for authorization to proceed with the issuing a request for qualifications for the master development for Seaver Farms parcel. Dick Carlisle is here, and we had a work session presentation on it 2 weeks ago. So it's actually on the agenda. Are there other questions or any questions that people have on this? So just maybe review the time frame. When
No, sorry, Dick Carlisle, Township Planning Consultant.
You remind me.
Secret agent.
You remind me of Dick Clark. That's what you remind me.
Oh, man. I'm about as old as Dick Clark, but he's not around anymore. So, well, the process. We're not going to rush the process, but we are going to go about this in a steady manner. And now, following this authorization from the township board, we will finalize the request for proposal, or excuse me, request for qualifications. It will need to be reviewed by Mr. Winter's office. I will need to also get with Clerk Rowe to make sure I've got all the, all the details, of what needs to be in there in terms of requirements. So, but once we do that, we have started to compile a list of developers that we will want to send this to. We will also advertise this. I think it would also be worthwhile actually to try to even get maybe a press release out about this so that we can get a little publicity, so that it might garner some interest, from more local developers, if that's the case. We will have a time frame. We will have a pre-qualification meeting that will be approximately 15 to 20 days from the time of release of this RFQ, and we will want to make that mandatory, because otherwise we'll be answering the same questions over and over and over again from people. So we will have a mandatory pre-proposal meeting, and then following that we will have a time frame, and I'm going to probably suggest somewhere at least 30 days, if not 45 days, for the receipt of the request for qualifications, probably 30 days. Once we receive those, then we will go about vetting the ones that we receive, and then in developing a short list to have interviews. And at that point, that's when we'll also, when we narrow it down, we will come back to the board with recommendations. And once a recommendation is made, then we'll go into detailed negotiations in terms of all the financial details as well as contractual requirements. The culmination of this is what we call the master developer agreement that will be entered into between the township and the prospective developer. And so it's going to be a process, and it's going to take a little length of time, but I think the end result will result in, hopefully will result in something more positive for the township.
Question? Sam? Go ahead. No, please.
I just had one, and I don't know if it would be for the full-timers or Dick, yourself. When you get all of the different groups that may want to bid, and you begin to vet through those and move some to one pile and the other to the other, would it be possible for us to get the list of all the people that submitted applications?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have an idea, so I don't know if you've ever heard of doing this process before.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it through the Convention and Visitors Bureau when they were going out for professional services, the rebranding of the two agencies together,
right.
The Ann Arbor and Ypsi Rio. So they had staff that actually, there were 10 proposals, so they vetted them, and then when they brought the top 4 to the selection committee, there were no names attached to it, so it could be completely objective. I thought that was, I don't know if that's good or bad, but I thought through this process that they had with the CVB, it was perfect.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that to me. That's an interesting approach, and it's certainly something we can discuss.
I don't know, you might want to talk to them. I was
Sure.
just, because we all have, if we hear a name that we know, of course we would be local, and they ended up not picking a local group,
right.
But everyone agreed not to pick them based on before they knew their name.
And
it wasn't until after they knew their name they realized they eliminated two local companies, or two companies that had done business, one for the city and one for Ann Arbor, and they were not chosen, but their name wasn't attached to it, and that's how they objected. I thought it was just an interesting,
Right.
you know.
Well, and I think, I mean, you raise a very good point, because this really should be a qualifications-based process. And we want to go into this with objectivity. You know, we are asking for a great deal of information from people companies do respond to this. It will be pretty clear, in my impression, from previous experiences, that those who are really interested will put forth an effort with the information that's submitted, and those who are, you know, kind of waving a wand at it, basically, and taking a flyer, so to speak, won't put much of an effort into it. It'll be, you know, begin clear, but it would be very useful. I think it'd be very helpful if we could possibly do that. So we'll think of a way possibly to do that.
Talk to the CVB and how
Yeah.
they did it, because they had their staff do a lot of it before it came to some of the board members.
Okay.
It was an interesting process.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So you're saying that they would just come, the groups would come, you wouldn't know who they are, what their business name was, and they would just give you their pitch, and you'd have all the information to read through their plan?
Well, in the beginning, it was all on paper, and so they went through a pre-qualifications.
Right.
And then until the final four, if you will, that's the first time they knew who they were.
Yeah. It's a short listing process, you know.
So did the staff know, but the
Yes.
final
Yeah.
group didn't know that was actually
Yes.
making the
They
selection?
did not know, yeah.
Interesting.
So when they were questioned on, well, you know, how's my company, because the company started calling the people, of course, right? And they go, well, we don't even know which,
Which one is which?
we're not allowed to discuss it. We don't even know which company is actually presented. I mean, I don't even know if that's a good process, but it worked well for the CVB. It seems like a good process. And what about, how do you say this legally, Doug?
I don't know what you're going to say.
You're not reading her mind? Come on. Like,
on, Doug.
we work with the building trades, and
Yeah.
so, Doug?
I don't.
Can we put in there that they have to be prevailing wage? Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to say that, yes.
That's legal.
We have an ordinance that already requires, Davis-Bacon Act in terms of compliance. So there may be some other language that would have to be, put into the RFQ and whatever it is.
Well, or at least to ask those questions, like when they develop it. I don't know how to get
And
there.
that's why Mr. Winters will be reviewing this before it goes out to make sure that it has all the proper stuff in there. So
We have a great resource for talent in the trades here,
Yeah.
right in Washtenaw County,
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, if we could just at least get them to bid on it, the opportunity to bid on the project.
Some properties, I think we can do a lot more requirements in regards to making sure that the people that have paid the taxes here are going to be the ones that also can be involved in the development. And we've always taken that position going back to when the township donated the 10 acres for the district library. And that was, I won't say a deal breaker, because we were insisting they're going to use, they actually signed a, what do you call that, CUP agreement.
Right.
So
It is your property. So, I mean, you can, I mean,
I'm just
I
asking
guess
these questions
within-
just to see how can we get to their heart.
exactly, and
Like,
I
where are
think
they?
within all legal limits, I think you can place whatever conditions you want to from the standpoint.
So we can require a cover agreement.
I'm going to rely
Or maybe
upon,
you can ask the
I'm going to
question,
rely
will
upon
you be
Mr.
willing
Winters'
to
advice,
do a
but
CUP agreement?
just ask the question, attach copies of your previous CUP agreements to this proposal.
okay,
I don't know. I was just trying to, you know what I'm saying,
I do know.
Monica?
Yeah, Madam Chair, it may fall into some of what it is that has already been discussed, but also it could fall over that. When the master developer is the one that's actually going to be, might as well say if they're chosen, they're going to be not only constructing but also supervising various contractors that may be working for them in order to complete the project. So specifically, I guess my questions are two. Could it be some way that it is inside of their master development agreement that they do have to hire a certain portion of township residents as long as they're duly qualified in order to do the jobs that's warranted for the development. And then also, I would also go as far as to say that they should also consider minority firms, whether that's women or whatever, minority firms also for some of the projects that would be associated for this development.
Again, I think starting out, this is, again, a qualifications-based approach, and I think certainly some of those more qualitative approaches that someone may provide for you in the risk can certainly be fair consideration. I think you as a board will have to weigh all of these things from the standpoint of the end result, and as to whether I think there are things obviously from a market standpoint that you can and are able to do within reason, and then there'll be some things where you want to be careful about not completely narrowing the market so far that you make the property unmarketable, because I think ultimately what we're trying to do here. Again, I think it would be wonderful if we could have a requirement for, township hired labor, but in some cases that labor may not be available, especially in the trades as it is today. Very difficult, it's a very constrained situation. So I think we want to be a little careful about that, but on the other hand, I think the merits of some of the things that you're asking for will come out in the proposals that we get.
Can I have a follow-up?
Sure.
And that's true. It may not work for certain aspects, but when you're talking about landscaping or better yet, maybe even some of the painting that will be required, there are, I believe, township residents and maybe even farms that can actually do those type of things.
Absolutely.
So it wouldn't be, just to make sure I'm clear, it wouldn't be, I would be talking about 100% that it should be township residents, but in the same aspect, there should be a certain, maybe small percentage that they should look at that would be able to hopefully hire, at least if they're duly qualified, township residents, and also, any firms that would be, minority based that is qualified. Qualified is still the first aspect of anything. So,
and other, township-based businesses that could be subcontractors for that matter. I think obviously we would like to see that benefit accrue to the township residents. I will consult with Mr. Winters about how we might incorporate language in the RFQ that would open the door for that kind of approach to be taken without shutting the door, I guess, completely on on being able to market the property. So.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
I have one question myself, if it's okay.
Okay.
Dick, the master developer RFQ and the contract with them, that's contract number one, but in regards to what Trustee Williams was asking too, do you envision a number of contracts, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, as it pertains to whoever is going to be, because I don't think the master developer is necessarily going to be
The builder.
the contractor. In terms of actually doing the building, I think her questions were going to dovetail a lot into some of the things that you were alluding to in regards to, there could be a contractor, a subcontractor, subcontractor.
Yes.
A lot of things. I was trying to figure out how you could put all that in one contract.
Yes.
Trying to figure out exactly.
The key is, however, is that
contracts.
we want the master developer to be fully responsible. That is why that's why I recommended that you go this approach, so that you have a single entity under a master development agreement that you will hold responsible for the planning, the design, all of the due diligence, the financing, and the development, responsibility for development. That doesn't mean they're going to doesn't mean they're going to they own the construction company that's actually going to do it, but we want somebody to be responsible for that. So yes, I'm sure there'll be some contractual agreements that come out of that. How we control all that, I guess we'll have to figure that out. But we really, we really don't. I would not advise you to want to have to supervise every aspect of how this property is developed, because then that puts you in the responsibility, the position of being the developer, which is the direction that you were sort of going in, which I recommended that you don't, that you go, look for a master developer to take down the property, develop it in accordance with your goals, but take responsibility for it. Yes.
Is the master developer, is it based on purchase price as well?
That's all part of the negotiation.
Okay.
Absolutely. It might not be the only consideration, but it will be a consideration, because obviously you're not going to be giving this property away.
Right.
So it's going to be a combination of the best financial deal and the best deal that achieves your objectives by the most qualified developer. And these might be weighted a little bit different, depending. You might have one that offers you a little bit more money, but may not be proposing completely the kind of project that you would like to see, or maybe might not have the financial capability that somebody else has. Because the other part about this is you want to make sure this project gets done. It's one thing to promise one thing, something, but it's another thing is to actually implement it. So we want to make sure part of the qualification process is that they have the financial capability to pull this off. But obviously, the township needs to recover what they've paid for this property. So that's...
And not to belabor it, just so I know in the past when, the Radisson Hotel, which is now the Marriott, we had an agreement with them about hiring local, for employees.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was preferential.
Yes.
And then we were supposed to get report, huh?
So where all things were equal, they got
Yeah.
And that's
So,
because we own that land.
right. So, we set up these kind of agreements as the hotel was developed. But when it comes to building and providing services, I think it's helpful to all developers if we provide them with a list of qualified people, like landscaping, what else did you say, painting,
Sure.
And so maybe we have some responsibility to help with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what we started doing was that we had the Washtenaw building trades, and we would send the information to them, and then they would bid on whatever projects was going on in the township. So I think there's a way to coordinate where we can help with
Absolutely.
that process.
Yep.
By give them
Yep.
a list.
Yep.
All right.
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is a request of Jeff Allen for the construction of the Green Oaks golf cart path improvements in the amount of $11,000 for OHM to oversee the contract and construction.
Good evening again, Madam Chair. Matt Parks will be here. I thought he'd be here at the work session, but obviously he's not here. This is for the additional work that took place, or that's going to take place if we approve the contract of, it was later on the agenda, to do the milling, or the breakup of the cart path at Green Oaks Golf Course. They're going to have concrete and asphalt around the clubhouse and a couple of the cart paths real close. Otherwise, I guess I'm starting to talk about the other job too, but they're going to oversee the project of all of the cart path getting crushed and the tree roots getting cut out. So we take care of all those safety items. So that's what they don't have their maximum supervision of it in here. I asked them to kind of get started with the crews, give me a price to get started, make sure they're getting the right quantities out there, they're getting the right people out there, and then, they don't have to totally supervise them at all times.
So you bid the project out,
Yes.
and the best And lowest bid was Best Asphalt?
That's correct.
It's later on the agenda, so
Yes.
this is in,
This is their engineering work to work with Best to get the job completed,
okay.
overseeing the
And
project.
the time frame was,
I think they were talking the end of April.
can't look it up.
Best said they could do each 9 in a week. So once they get started, I don't know where the asphalt plants are yet on opening. It's what still in the first week of April. They normally open middle to end of April. So I think there is going to be, as I said, some asphalt going in up near the clubhouse where they cut the trees out. I don't know if people are familiar with it, but there were 3 trees up in front there that were really heaving the asphalt there. So that will be torn out and put back in there, and they have a price to replace. There's some concrete that runs when you step out of the clubhouse and walk all the way over towards the first tee. So that will be replaced as well.
are there questions on this? I know we talked about it in the budget process, and, this is part of the capital improvement plan that we wanted to get completed for the golf course, and the safety hazards removed with the big tree roots and the pavement. And there's a lot of it. They're just going to mill it,
Right. Pulverize.
pulverize.
Right. That's the term they're using.
All right.
Madam Chair, just a comment, Madam Chair? Just a comment. I'm really glad to see this is being done.
Good.
So, I mean, even though I'm not personally a big golfer.
You're not a golfer?
I have done putt-putt.
Okay.
Yes, and I have watched Tiger Woods actually golf at Marion in
Well, that's been a while then.
Yeah, it's been a while. But either way, it's good to see that this is done, so it'll bring more people into our golf course. So thanks. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Winters, have you looked at the agreement?
We don't have the contract yet for the Best Asphalt contract. I mean, I know they haven't been awarded the contract, but
Right.
I'm just the reason I'm asking the question, because this is one that does require the Davis-Bacon Act provisions, and looking at those bids of $500,000 down to $250, it seems to be, I'd like to make sure that all those
Sure.
I's are dotted and T's are crossed, especially when it comes to the prevailing wage.
Yep. We'll make sure you get that.
Is Matt going to prepare the contract documents?
I don't know. When Matt gets here, I will talk to him about it.
Good. And all the ordinances, I assume, and everything.
My computer's frozen, or I would look it up, but I can't. Are there any other questions until Matt gets here to help us with that? Well, Jeff, you might as well stay here, because this whole agenda
Right.
is about you. Okay.
Mike Radzik's reminded me of that.
The next item is architectural professional service. We already talked about that.
We don't have a contract, and so we need to make the motion subject to contract being developed and to the attorney's
Approved by Mr.
approval.
Winters,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay. The next item is request for Community Tourism Action Plan grant application for Rosie the Riveter Guinness World Record event in the amount of $10,000. That's a grant that we get from the CDB, and we have to put a matching fund in of $1,000. The event is going to be October 14th at the Convocation Center. So
Put it on your calendars.
put it on the calendar.
All you
Sad.
Rosies.
I already have, I don't know if I can make it. I'm so sad.
Excuse me?
I know. We'll talk about it later.
There's really not much to talk about. If we lose by one person, don't feel bad, Heather.
That means you have to recruit a bunch to take your place. No, we're not doing guys, are we?
Huh?
We're not doing men, are we? Like California used men to break the record. Has that been decided?
Look at me.
Okay, maybe it hasn't been decided.
We're not discussing it. Our goal is to have women.
Yes.
So,
It'll reload you.
and that's how we got it before, and we're pretty confident we'll do it again, and that's our story, and we're sticking to it. So,
Maybe you want to say the world record, make sure it lists women. the most rosy women in history or something.
Yeah, and California is actually, and the congressman there is kind of taking Debbie Dingell on big time over this, and she said they're very serious, and they have another event scheduled in August to try to break their record that they already broke. So in October, our goal is 5,000. So, and to have it at the Convocation Center, and EMU's
students involved.
philosophy is, our colors are green, but our collars are blue. So that I can't think of a better place to have it at Eastern Michigan.
Just have to get all the students involved. They get extra credit or something.
So, and we've involved EMU, U of M. We had our first planning meeting last Saturday. We're going to have our second one this Saturday. So as we ramp it up, we'll obviously keep everyone involved, and hopefully they can put it on their calendar. Any questions on that CTAP grant? Is there any other business? No? Jeff? We have the
Here.
best asphalt, which we're not going to talk about that until Matt gets here. Is that correct?
Well, I would like to at least discuss the recommendation that OHM had. The low bidder was Best Asphalt at $257,000. OHM is recommending a contingency of $15,000. So the dollar amount goes to $272,837. I just want to make sure the board is comfortable with that amount, or however you want to do it. I just feel that's an item that should be discussed. I know Larry is stringent on contingents. You don't know what you might run across. You hit something underneath there. We don't, really have plans, and we took out, if you remember, we took out the sprinkler, the irrigation stuff, but I don't know what else might uncover. Indian warheads or something, I'm not sure.
Indian warhead? Is that what you said?
Yes, that's what I said. I don't know. There might be, might be like old burial grounds or something.
Because that'll be a major problem.
Well, I know.
If we do
That's
that.
why.
Madam Chair.
Treasurer Dow?
Yeah, part of the question with the sprinklers and everything, that we took that out of the bid.
Yes, sir.
They weren't responsible, so I don't know why
Yes,
you
sir.
would bring those up if they're not responsible. Why didn't they put a contingency in when they did the bid?
Well,
I mean, most
generally you
companies
just add
do.
the percentage onto the end of after they bid it. You add a percentage on. Instead of having them bid the contingency, somebody's going to bid 10,000 contingency, somebody's going to bid 50,000. Now, who's the low one? Right. The one, so I feel like it's better to bid it and then add the contingency on. The company doesn't even know that you did it. When you give them the contract, you give them a contract for the lower amount. But
Well, as long as they don't know about it. It's always been my understanding that you figure out it, and then they figure out how to use the extra $15,000. But that's just the way I think.
Jeff? Okay, go ahead, Heather. You don't have a question? So the construction services by OHM, the 4%, 4.4%, is
Yes.
that based on the contingency as well, or just based on the...
That's a good question. I can calculate that. I calculated the number myself. They just gave me that, and I like to convert it to a percentage. I can't remember off the top of my head if I use the 257 or the extra 15. As soon as I get back to my
On your phone?
counter, I'll figure it out.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Treasurer.
Yeah, to go back again, so you're looking at 1 week in the front, 1 week in the 9. Is that 7 days, 8 hours? Is that...
We were going to give them from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m.
12 hours a day.
I don't know if they're going to work that long or how long, but we did set hours on it so they couldn't be out there too early or too
And the
late.
inspector is going to be out there, what's their rate, 110, 160?
Probably 110.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So you're in excess of 100 hours. And our question was, did they need to be there every minute that they were pounding out?
Right. Now, I think that's a better question for Matt when he gets here, Larry. I asked them to not do their full supervision. I said, I only want you to get out there. There's some, measurables that they want to make sure, because they bid this on the total amount of concrete, the total amount of asphalt, without really, they're going to have to tell them where they want this asphalt that they've bid on. So when Best gets there, they're going to say, your 150 tons of asphalt goes here, 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 here. So there's some of that they have to work out in the beginning. I don't know if it takes 2 people to be there then, and then 1 some days. Matt,
The only place the asphalt's going is up by the pro shop, right? Or is,
correct.
okay, so
And there's a little bit of path work though up near the clubhouse. When we were out there, around that flagpole out, yes,
Yeah.
that's all there is.
that sure shouldn't take long to tell them where to put it. So, I mean,
Well, they have to make sure that it's pulverized all over. The tree roots are cut. I'm just saying.
yeah, and I guess I'll wait till Matt gets here. But the real question is to make sure that where the roots are at, that they're all taken out. And I would imagine they want to be there when they're grinding the roots down before they start pulverizing.
Mm-hmm.
But pulverizing, I mean, I should be able to go out there 5 hours after they've done 1,000 feet and take a shovel and figure out it's been pulverized.
Right.
But,
So
okay.
the construction observation is 6,500. So the amount is 11,460, but there's a fee schedule, and it's actually kind of broken down on how much observation. Does that help? Anyway, we'll wait for Matt. Are there any other questions, Dan?
I just have one. Jeff, I apologize, I probably missed it somewhere. But to kind of go off what Doug mentioned earlier, these prices range from a high to a low. Can you tell us who, or show us the other bids, or provide us copies of those so we can look at those?
We can do that. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I actually had a question for
Mr. Rossway?
Attorney Winters. Davis Bacon, I know you guys spoke about that, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is there a certain wage that have to be paid? What is that wage? I was just curious because I know you had mentioned it.
Well, there's a classification that's published by the Washtenaw County Clerk's Office that's supposed to actually list all the different prevailing wage rates and fringe benefits for different classifications of laborers. So in this kind of a construction project, I assume there's going to be everything from the people that are actually out there doing the asphalt pouring, raking, etc. And this is where I think sometimes we get a list of the different labor classifications sometimes from Matt's office, because we have to confirm under our ordinance that they're being paid not just the wage, but the actual wage and the fringe benefit. And so those do get updated by the U.S. Department of Labor on a regular basis, and sometimes you have to make sure that they're matching up, because the township does have the right to look at the audited statements to ensure that they are in fact paying the prevailing wage rate and fringe benefit. That's one reason why in the past, I'm just kind of just going off in the previous conversation, is that's why there is a benefit when someone does sign a CUB agreement, because they will actually police that portion of the contract for the township, which results in the assurance that they are in fact going to be paid the prevailing wage rate and fringe benefit. But depending on the different types of labor and the different laborers and the classification, that's going to dictate what the prevailing wage rate or fringe benefit is. And I just don't know, Jeff, what the different kinds of classifications they'll have for that kind of work. I just don't know. There's probably going to be general labor. There may be something more, specific for that type of project. I just don't know what it is.
You might have an operator, landscaper, shoveling guy.
There's a lot more classifications. Sometimes at first glance you
Right.
think of it.
The truck hauler is hauling. Stan, is that enough? Excuse me, Madam Chair. Is that enough information there? The 4 listed on the page. Thanks.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm just I'm glad that Stan answered that because I'm just curious, why is there such a big difference in these companies?
3 of them were really close, wasn't it? And 2 of
Three
them
of them
were
were-
crazy.
Right. One is very high. Pavex.
That's just outrageous for.
Right. Sometimes, I guess I'll just give you a general thing, and I don't know if it's the case here. Sometimes companies just throw a number out there, hope it sticks, because they're really busy and they don't care if they get it. But if they get it for that amount, boy, they can really make some money at it.
It's a good process.
Jeff, neither one of those numbers are 4.4 unless I didn't do it right. So maybe you
Okay.
can figure that out before the...
Okay, I will do that.
And I think, too, the estimate that came in, Matt Parks had estimated it at $250,000, and it was at $257,000.
That's correct.
So, I mean, it was, because we bid it,
It's 5.
I think it kind of
That's
came in the ballpark.
a good price.
Yeah, that we were.
And that's about the same price that I think, we had talked about
Yeah.
in negotiating outside of the whole
Yeah.
process too.
Yeah, so I think
now we're comfortable with the figure because we had a bid.
they want to get moving because they want this to be the first job they do so they can move on to their next one, correct? That's
Right.
usually- All right.
And the bids that were close, I mean, they were all pretty close, except for those ones that were just out there. It wasn't like huge differences.
All right. Jeff, the next item is for the roof replacement,
Yes.
Royal Roofing.
Yes. We did a bid, did a sealed bid, and opened the bids at Royal Roofing, who is actually found out the nation's largest roofing company. It was a low bidder for $106,799. Again, most of our roofing contracts, just so we get into Mr. Winter's situation, we usually, once it's approved, we contact them, they send a contract and the insurance sheet along. We do ask them when they bid to sign that they get a copy of what we want our insurance to say, and they basically accept that. So if the board approves this, then we will contact them to send us a contract so we can get the signatures and Mr. Winter's approval. I may want to also probably should add in, they do need a staging area, and I told them that, and of course it's the board's decision if you want to do something different, but I told them if you picture the doors, if you're inside the community center senior and you come out those double doors at the south end, kind of right by where the golf course is, that they could use that area between where those doors come out and the island there, that's the traffic island, and then along the east side of the community center where the bus stop is, we would have to contact AAATA and temporarily move the bus stop for they think it'll be less than 2 weeks to do the work. But they have to have a dumpster to throw the stuff off the roof and that. So they have to have something fairly close, at least for the dumpster and to load up the rubber material to get it back on the roof. So I'll work with the community. I've already talked to Kirk and Angie about it, just notifying them that when the work starts, we'll need to make some accommodations there. And so once it does start, then I'll be out there trying to shepherd it.
Who's the Garland Company?
That's our roof consultant. Brad, I think you've seen him, real tall guy. Anyways,
Okay.
he's done. He was a consultant on the
I
court
know him.
on the court roof. Well, I thought maybe you'd seen him around because he did the court roof. He was a consultant, and he was a consultant up here on the roof over the offices.
Okay, very good. Oh, Matt's here. Welcome, Matt. Do you want to go to the last item before we...
Are we done with this one? I just want to make sure if there's any
With the
questions
roof?
on the roof.
Is this a contract as well?
Yes, Madam Chair, I was saying that.
Contingent upon,
Should the board approve this, and Royal will send us a contract, we'll kick it to Doug, and we'll start executing signatures once he's comfortable with it. They'll supply the insurance certificate as well.
Jeff, is Royal, are they local or where are they from?
They are from, all these companies are from up in the Utica area and all that. Well, we discussed this with Karen at the bid opening, all four of them.
capital.
Right. It's funny, they said all the rubber roofers are basically up in that area, and the shingle guys are down in this area, and they kind of just, I don't know, congregate, but I thought I had the city on where they were from, but they're almost all from like Lake Orion or Utica, up in that area.
The bids are pretty close together, too. I just kind of curious.
Yes, it was a very competitive bid, and actually, if you recall, our estimate was $125,000 to $150,000. That was the estimate on what we anticipated. We thought what happened was and the other thing that somehow we got away with it, when we first started to go out to bid, we didn't have that high windstorm, and all of a sudden all these roofing companies from that big storm are all over the place now. All of a sudden they had no work, and then they had work, and now they're busy for a month or two. So we were a little bit worried about getting a higher price than that, but worked out all right.
Madam Chair.
Treasurer Doe.
Jeff, real quickly, looking at the photos you have here, should we get up there and try to scrape that wall and paint it before they...
They're taking care of that. That's that's included in there. There was a little adder. It's called an adder, I guess. And
that was a 20.
That's a section. Yeah, that actually is. I thought that was just regular paint, and I was going to have guys paint it. That's like a sealant, a roof sealant type thing. So they have a specialized paint, so they're taking care of it. Yes.
And they'll take care of the raccoons coming in.
Well, I think we've got them already done, figured out.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every year. You never tell a resident to get food out.
So Matt, there were some questions on the golf cart path improvement.
Yes. How much supervision was one of them? Like the amount of time that you guys are going to spend out there. I told them I asked for a scaled back version. But.
Yeah. So Jeff was explaining to me what was provided.
Name for the record.
Matt Parks with OHM Advisors. What I gave Jeff was a hourly not to exceed supervision inspection contract. I'm hopeful that if we can coordinate with Jeff and staff at the golf course, hopefully those are hours that aren't even necessarily needed. But basically what we did was we assumed, I believe in the contract it's set up where they're going to do 9 holes in 1 week, and then the second 9 holes in another week. And what we had was an hour of an inspector time in the morning to show up and coordinate with the contractor on questions they might have, and then popping back in at the end of the day, spending about 2 hours measuring up using a wheel and or tape to measure all the work they got that day done.
Okay.
And then having that inspector probably in the area, so if there is any questions, if the contractor comes up, if staff or Jeff doesn't know how to answer their questions, we're going to have somebody in the vicinity that can drive over and answer their questions. So I anticipated maybe that happening a few times. So all in all, at the most, I think I assumed about 4 hours a day, and then a lot of the time on there is just to administer the contract, to do the pay estimates, to pay the contractor, to do a change order if necessary, or if other work needs to be done, say golf course staff or Jeff says, hey, there's a piece of concrete over here that's deteriorating, can we get that fixed as part of this? That allows us the opportunity to work with the contractor, figure out how the unit prices apply, and mark that up for them. So that is, in my anticipation, the contract and the proposal we put forth tonight is pretty much worst case if we're out there as much as I think we would possibly have to be. If the contractor, after a few days, has things under control. We're working with Jeff and golf course staff, and they're able to monitor, and you guys don't need us as much, great. That's all the better, and you can save that money. So I think the contract, like I said, I kind of like to put a proposal forward to the township board so I don't need to come back or ask for more money later.
Treasurer Doe?
Madam Chair, Matt, didn't we pay for the bid to go out? Is that the bidding assistance of the 2,600? Didn't we pay for that up front to begin with?
Yeah, I put bidding assistance in the thing. It should be just execution of the contract. So basically for us to get the books out to, assuming you award it to Best Asphalt tonight, we have to put together the books for them to sign the agreement, to check their insurance, to get the bonds, send out a notice of award, and send out a authorization to proceed, and then hold the pre-con. So that's really the bidding assistance. Really is a misnomer. It should be contract assistance.
But didn't we do a 10 or 12,000 to bring this all back together, you know, when we, from the original milling and all the stuff we were going to do, and then when we sat down at the golf course out there, didn't we approve $10,000 or $12,000 to go back through all the numbers and to do the bidding at that time?
You approved I want to say in February, you approved us for a $3,900 change order to put the books back out to bid, and that concluded, that scope of services concluded with the recommendation of the low bidder.
So that's up to 2,600. You just bid at an hourly rate.
What?
It's up to 2,600. It's whatever it takes to do that. Or is it 2,600?
2,600.
Okay.
I don't know. So back in the fall, you approved OHM to put together a spec book to actually do the paving work. That didn't actually end up getting awarded. And then $3,900 was for us to sit down, repackage everything. I know a lot of that time was spent with potentially working with a contractor you had under contract and negotiating with that. We ended up deciding, based on multiple conversations, to go back out for bid. And then that scope was through the recommendation of award. So basically for us to put it back, have the bid opening, tabulate all the bids, and then recommend to you who the most qualified low bidder is. And that concludes our services.
Yeah, my question, I think, Matt, was I thought the 3,900 was to revisit it, look at what we can do, which we did that morning.
Sure.
And you had some calculations to say, okay, the milling is going to cost this much versus the polarizing. And that also, that 3,900 included to go out for the bids.
Correct.
Okay, so we're paying for going out for the bids twice then?
No.
No, the 2,600 is not for bidding.
Yeah.
No, it's for the execution of the contract. So the CA, this CE services would basically be, I guess I don't know what you're referencing or why you think that.
He's looking at your fee schedule, and it says construction administration bidding assistance. So it's a little confusing.
Yeah, okay. I
That's it.
understand. Yeah, and that really is just for us to move forward with the contract, get the pre-con done, get the contracts executed, because you have to do that, right? And if the board moves forward tonight with the low bidder, then we need to get contracts, agreements, everything else ready, polished, and executed. And we would usually provide a copy of that for Doug's review.
Okay, are there other questions on the engineering, or we had questions on the actual bids too, and, right? One was, it was bid being prevailing wage, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
it meets all of that.
It does.
Excuse me.
That was one of the,
This is Jeff again. Karen, I came up with 4.4% if I took 11,456 and divided by 257,837. You asked about, you didn't get 4.4.
well,
One of
thank you.
us.
Thank you for that clarification.
7 times the .044.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I was trying to
Thank you
be,
for that clarification.
as far as our contract on this, just basically part-time or half-time, I was looking to be around a little under 5% of the total contract. So, and that's pretty much where we're at. Typically for a full-time construction job like the driveway or water main projects were around 10 to 12%.
And when do they hope to start the job?
So if you guys move forward tonight and we're able to get a contract together, and that usually takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks for them to get the bonds back and return everything and then get Mr. Winters to review it. We could be sitting down in 2 weeks for a pre-con, and
So and when?
I could see probably best case 2.5 to 3 weeks from now. We could potentially
It'll
be
take
started.
that long to get it? Okay.
I mean, it depends on how quickly they can get the
We
bonds.
have frost
and
laws
insurances.
anyways, right?
I think those are coming off.
Do you know when the plant's open?
No, I don't, but they typically are open by mid-April.
Well, it's going to snow on Sunday,
Yeah.
so, I mean,
Madam Chair.
treasure to.
But you
I
have
I
their-
guess I was chewing gum or something. It's going to take 3 weeks to get them in there because you can't get asphalt until then, or?
What, they got to execute the contract book, so you got to pull your bonds together, you got to get your insurance together, you got to have your pre-con. I mean, it's typically 2 weeks for them to get the books, to sign them the right way, get the bonds in, and then you guys sign them, and then get a pre-con. It's a week or two, at least.
It could be less since this is their first job too, so they want to get this done out of the way, right?
We can move as fast as they, and
Yeah, they're going to want to move fast, I'm guessing.
And Best is experienced at.
And remember, Larry, there's not a lot of asphalt on this job, so there's plenty of work that they need to do ahead of time pulverizing without the asphalt. So regardless of the plants being open, they can get going.
Madam Chair. Yeah, that's my question. You could pulverize everything, clean up the area, and we could just leave it loose until the asphalt
come
came
back.
in. That's what I thought. Maybe I heard or didn't hear that they was waiting for the asphalt companies to open. But
We just need a contract in order for them to proceed,
Yeah,
once the board votes on it.
quicker the best moves, or whoever, if you guys award them tonight, then we'll get going as soon as we can, because we know how important it is, and we don't want to impede on the golfers if we don't have to. So.
Attorney Winters?
Is there any scheduling conflict, Jeff, between the community center project and the golf course project? I mean, it was about staging areas, but are they both going to be?
Right. I don't anticipate the other job starting until 1st of May. I don't see any, even if they were there at the same time, I don't know that there'd be any issue.
Just asking.
No, that's a good question.
Sounds like it. Kind of crowded.
All right. Any other comments? Are we good, everyone? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And then the last item is to waive the financial policy award the low quote to Spartan Distributors for the purchase of a Toro Groundmaster and a Harper Turbo Vac. Is Tim going to come here? Who worked with him, you, Larry?
Probably me. You probably worked to him, supervisor.
Yes.
In working with Tim, you remember they were going to go out for this huge mowers and stuff, and it was, I don't know, $200,000 and some thousand, and we're actually going to what Tim is. They've got 2 mowers out right now to be rebuilt at $20,000 estimate each one of those. So this is not reflective of purchasing a new bat wing, which was the big piece of equipment. And he worked on getting these 2 Spartan, which is also on that national bidders list. And these are the prices they come up with. And I think we have them in the packet. There were 2 other. He actually got 3 quotes, and these were the lowest quotes. And Tim says when he gets this and gets his bat wing up and running, that he'll be good to go for the season. And it was
So
great.
you didn't formally bid it your way, but you received 3 quotes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And the question is, which we're not really sure, which we're going to work out on the financial policy when we re-update that. You know, if you remember, Jeff went out on the one bat wing to that national new group. We're not really sure. We think that's a national bid, and if it is, and because Spartan puts them on there, this is bid nationally with competitive prices. I think one that Jeff had was a price out of California, but the local guy matched it on a national bid. And this was, Spartan uses that on this that online bidding process is the same as we did for the Batwing. So, and for both of these pieces of equipment. So, because it's not in our financial policy that that's allowed, but not technically, but non-technically, it was bid according to those folks who work at that national organization on a national bid. But just because it's not in our policy, we said we have to waive the policy, which is currently under review, and we'll hopefully have that national group along with Minton listed as proper sources for, that meets the bidding requirements under our new policy. I rambled on. Sorry about that.
But he did get 3 quotes.
He got 3 quotes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that,
Right.
okay.
He did get 3 quotes, and
These are the lowest
These were the
quotes.
lowest of the quotes he got. Spartan.
All right, anyone have any questions on that? All right. Concludes the work session. So we're in the work session, and the board meeting will start.
Work session ends at 6:27, I think it is.
Years ago,